What I want to do now is normalise some of the emotions that you're feeling or trying not to feel, like despair and hopelessness and futility and inadequacy, and explain that actually they are a healthy and appropriate response to what it is you're going through. They're not indicators of emotional weakness, they're actually indicators of emotional health. You've been trained to preserve life, but people around you are dying in unprecedented numbers. Of course you're going to be struggling. There's a constant tension inside you between hope, which gets you out of bed in the morning, and despair, which does the opposite. As if that wasn't hard enough, at the end of your shift you go home. But home isn't a sanctuary anymore. There's a risk you might infect your family. There's even a risk your family might infect you. How could you not be feeling the way you're feeling? How could you not be feeling completely overwhelmed? But despite what you might be feeling, your behaviour on shift has to be governed by thinking. Now, clinically, trauma is diagnosed by an inability to think, so you're not there yet. But there is a real and serious danger of future traumatisation if you don't acknowledge the fears that you're handling now. They're universal, everybody's feeling the same way, and just take a moment to acknowledge them. It's often really hard to name what you're feeling, particularly if those feelings are to do with shame or unworthiness, two things we're particularly ashamed of. So what we do is we hide those feelings behind other feelings that we think are more socially acceptable. As it happens, anger or explosions of frustration are often where we go to hide deeper feelings of shame. Blaming somebody else distracts from having to blame yourself. So displacing our anxiety onto someone or something is actually quite a sensible thing to do in the short term. When you're under real pressure, it's actually very sensible to employ defences that allow you to keep going, that allow you to do your job. Your defences might include other things too. Some people use blaming, other people use humour, other people denial. But whatever it is, have some respect for those defences because you need them. There's so much going on, so much assaulting your senses, pulling on your emotions that it's impossible to think about the bigger picture. For now, all you can think about is your own survival, and that's fine. Don't feel guilty about it. But even faced with the visceral reality of the pandemic every day, there are some small things that you can do to future-proof yourself against trauma. If you think long and hard about what it is you do best on the ward every day and the things that you volunteer for, and then invert them, you'll probably find that that's a map to what you're finding most difficult. If you look at what you're avoiding, that's probably the clue to the focus of your stress. Then you can name it, you can nail it, and then you can bookmark it and come back to it later when you do have the time and the opportunity to focus on yourself again. Think of it like a promise to yourself that you are going to return to these difficult emotions. And while we're talking about this, let's all just try to relax about fear. Everyone is frightened. Fear is a universal emotion around which everything difficult in our lives tends to cluster. But just because it's universal doesn't mean it doesn't feel incredibly individual and lonely. It's very hard to feel that there's anybody that's feeling exactly what you are, but try to remember that they are. Your colleagues are probably feeling exactly the same thing. For now, try to keep as much as you can in the present. And most importantly of all, try to remember the good stuff. Try to remember how many lives you've saved. Our failures, our experiences of shame tend to stay with us all the time. And right now it's really important that you focus on your successes. Don't let the failures drown them out. Think about the good that you've managed to do. And when we're on the other side of this, and I know that for many of you that feels like a distant horizon, there will be talking therapy on offer and support groups waiting for you. Some people will want to take up that opportunity soon. Some won't. There's no right time and people are different. But the most important thing is that at some point you do admit to yourself the emotional cost of what you're going through now. Maybe if you just tell one friend, but find the words, find your own words to articulate what it is that you've gone through. And that in itself is what makes you human, and it's what keeps you human, and it's what makes you so worthy of our trust.